All right. The following podcast may be disturbing to some diehard cryptid hunters. We're all here to have a good time, so sit back, have a drink, and let's learn together about myths, monsters, and legends. Welcome to Cryptid Crunch. I am your host, Willow Schuyler. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I have some special guests tonight. And so let's get this show started. All right, so this is a surprise. Joining me tonight instead of Kale, George Bueller.
Hey, what's going on, Willow? How you doing?
Good. I am so happy to see you here.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here. So yeah, this is my first time actually on Cryptid Crunch.
It is.
Yeah,
I hope it's not
awesome.
past your bedtime, though.
No, I do have a little bit of some French roast going on here, just to make sure that I'm crispy for you. Because I have been awake since 6 a.m., which I think was 7 a.m. with the whole rollback time. I'm confused the whole time thing. It's a flat circle here.
Yeah.
I'm just, I think I got an extra hour of sleep. It feels like it. I feel energetic here, but yeah, I mean, I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. All right, so coming from the Appalachian Mountains is the woman that I've been dying to talk to for a while. So thank you, George, for hooking us up. Melinda.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
No problem. So Melinda has a podcast called Moss Hollow, and it's totally nothing like any podcast that you guys have probably ever heard. This is more of a storytelling podcast. So Melinda, tell us about yourself and how you started up with Moss Hollow.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about it and share a little bit about it. So the podcast is called Moss Hollow, and I'm a voice actor, and this is my first audio drama. So George and I actually know each other because I'm an actor, and he hired me in the past. He when he worked for a news station, he hired me as Supergirl. So our love for characters goes way back, and I was Supergirl for a few years, and that was a really fun gig.
You're awesome.
Thanks. You were awesome to work for. So I guess that just gives a little bit of extra context as to like how George and I know each other. But with that said, I've wanted to tell more stories, and I've wanted to dip my feet into audio drama and flex my writing muscle, because it's really fun getting to watch other people's work or even audition for other people's work and be cast in really creative, interesting projects. But when it comes to podcasting or even just voiceover, I'm often using my voice for things that are sometimes a little more corporate, like for narration projects or e-learning modules or something that's, still engaging and interesting. And I like doing it, but it's not the same as, producing an audio drama or getting cast in an animation or something where you can do some character work or, be creative is what I'm trying to say. So earlier this year, I was feeling a little bit creatively stale, and I really wanted to branch out and try audio dramas. And, you can audition for other people's audio dramas, but now that they've been out for a while, it is pretty competitive. Not to say that I couldn't do it, but I thought, no, I really need to do something that is from my heart and put it out there and see what happens. And so I'm the writer and performer and editor of the show, and it's currently slated for 20 episodes. I'm now at 11. So if you haven't listened and you're interested, you can catch up and binge the first half at least. So the next episode releases next week. And if you're new to the show, Moss Hollow is an Appalachian fiction podcast. It centers around two women who find themselves out in the mountains searching for a girl who went missing from the local summer camp. And they run into some eldritch and supernatural problems that they have to solve. They meet some helpful ghosts along the way, but it is, spooky. So I'm really happy to be on Cryptid Crunch and talk a little bit more about mountain stories.
I love this. Is your story? Does your story hold some form of truth, like in your own way? Like, do you have your own experiences tied into the story, or is it just completely made up?
Well, honestly, the only real truth to the story is that I'm an educator, and so I've taught lots of summer camps. So it's easy for me to dip into personal experience and really imagine what it's like to actually have a kid go missing, or, I have a lot of crazy summer camp stories, but nothing severe. No children have ever been harmed in my care, so that's good at least.
Yeah. You've never thrown a vape pen at a crow and the crow exploded in a mist.
It maybe in the future someday, manifesting that. I am trying to befriend the crows in my neighborhood, though. There is, I don't know how it is where you guys live, but in my neighborhood, there is a ton of bird drama. Mm-hmm. And once you notice it, you can't not notice it. Like, I was not planning on talking about this, but the bird drama in my neighborhood it compares to Real Housewives. It's insane because the local crows, there's only in my local murder, there's maybe 8. Can you tell I have a love for crows? That's why they're in the story. But they are very territorial and they are very vocal. And I've now gotten them to recognize me and my house. So when they perch on the little lamppost outside on my street, they can call me and ask for peanuts. So it's progress. I really want to be friends.
You've offered them food. They know where you live and where the food comes from. So yeah, you're cool. That's literally all it takes. Because Michelle's family lives out in West Virginia, and so they have some land out there. And yeah, they put out feed and corn and stuff like that in the mornings, and the crows just swarm in the area. And when it's and they and the deer and stuff like that are all hanging out waiting for feeding time. So yeah, once they know where food comes from and it's regular, then yeah, you're on their cool list.
And here, nice. I feel like I haven't done a whole lot to attract crows. They just seem to follow me everywhere I go. And you know what? Okay, so weird thing is, since I got addicted to playing Resident Evil, I hadn't really thought of them much up until playing the first game, and now I see them everywhere. And yeah.
Okay. In all fairness, those crows were infected by the T virus. Those were bad crows.
But it's crazy.
Crows are normally very nice as long as you feed them.
It is creepy when you turn around the corner to go to work and you see all of them just lined up on the power lines. And it's like, okay, do not make any sudden moves.
Let me tell you about creepy. So I never really saw this type of bird until I moved to Elizabethtown, and Hardin County must love turkey vultures because turkey vultures are very thick in this area. And last year, around I think it was late spring going into the summer, there was one day I was going to work and I saw this shadow. Because basically, the way the sun hits my roof. And so I'm walking out to my car, my parking lot, I see the shadow of the roof. And I saw something on top of the roof that moved. I'm like, oh, what's that? And I look up, and it's like a scene from The Birds, except it's turkey vultures, which means these are 3 times the size. So these things are large, ugly birds. And they are all over my roof, the roof of the building next door, the roof of the bank across the street, and the church also across the street. It was like, oh my God. So
Yeah.
car quickly and left the scene. And then, interesting postscript, those same turkey vultures in a nearby radio station, they have a tower that goes way up, and they made a nest up in that tower. So we had to get raptor experts to make sure the babies got out of that nest safely, and those were rehomed and not in the radio tower.
Aw.
Yeah, we were infested with turkey vultures last year in E-Town. So it was.
Are you allowed to hunt them, or is that something that?
I don't know, but also because they were like downtown and there was a lot of them, I didn't want to start anything. And I don't think anyone else wanted to either. Because some of
they
those
knew
guys
you thought they were ugly, George. That's why they came after you. They were like, "We're not ugly. We're unique."
It's not that I think they're ugly. It's that basically they're the size of a vulture. Those like solid black with that that weird naked thing on there. But it also looks like turkey vultures have a strange appearance to them because it almost looks like they're like zombie birds. Because like they're like the redness looks a little redder and the loose skin looks a little looser. It's like they just don't look attractive. I'm sorry, but there's regular vultures with like the nice white collar neck, that you'd only see in the deserts. Those are kind of nice, but like turkey vultures are just, I'm sorry. They're ugly and scary, and they're as big as I am, and I'm a large person, so it's kind of a little intimidating.
Well, it's funny because last year my city seemed to be like infested with wild turkeys, and I'm just like, nobody would know if I were to, drive by one, pick it up, and take it home and cook it.
True. Have you ever had wild turkey before?
Free food.
have you ever had like wild, like just like free roaming turkey, not like in a range, like real wild turkey before? It's it's an interesting texture than standard turkey like you'd buy in the grocery store. It's a lot denser, almost like pork. It's like it's still white meat, it's still turkey, but it's like real thick. Like you're eating a meat.
But yeah, like my city for some reason can't say for some reason. Our city is expanding in different directions, and nature makes itself known. And so now we're seeing a lot more deer. We're seeing a lot more foxes coming out of the woodwork. And yeah, my neighborhood, we've even had coyotes come out, and neighbors are always constantly saying, "Don't leave your little dogs and cats roaming."
Aww.
Yeah, there's one comment, if you don't mind. I'm going to post here from Eli Cash here, saying, first the crows, then the seagulls, then there's blondes hiding and screaming in phone booths, then there's a British guy named Alfred standing there nonchalantly while wishing me good evening. What's so good about it? And Dan Hollefeld chiming in saying there's no reason to hunt turkey vultures. See, because probably they hunt back. Dan knows. Like I said, these are birds you don't want to mess with. Like I see them like hang out in packs on the highway, waiting for things to die so they can eat it. Like it's like they're daring stuff. Like, come on, let's go. I'm telling you, they're like a street gang.
Yeah, I can't say I've dealt with any of those yet. I mean, it's Canada. We have weird animals up here too.
Yeah, you guys got your own stuff.
Yeah, and when it comes to cryptids, like we have like some of the weirdest cryptids up here. Like we have our own sea cryptid, which is called the Manipogo, and then we have the Winnepogo. But again, whether or not someone has actually seen it is another thing. But we're just like ripping off other people's cryptids.
Think of it like the highlights. You have the best of. That's what it is.
Go ahead.
I'll say Melinda and I, being Kentuckians, we've got the Pope Lick monster or the Goat Man.
Oh,
Yeah, and then Michelle being from West Virginia, she's got Mothman. So Point Pleasant isn't what I think. Point Pleasant was only like maybe like an hour or so away from Fayetteville. So I've never been there, but she's been there before. So
And of course, Mothman is friend of the show.
yeah.
yes, yes, yeah.
Frequent appearances on Cryptid Crunch.
Yeah, well, we like to keep Mothman, in our best graces because he's seems to be a benevolent force, but it always seems to be around when things go wrong. So that means we want to be nice to him, I guess, when he's here because maybe things won't go wrong, or I don't know. Just
He's a wild card. You never know.
we just don't want any bridges to collapse on Christmas Eve or anything like that. That'd be bad.
Well,
Not on everything, George. Don't give
You could let us know what the winning lottery tickets are instead of waiting around for something bad to happen.
Yeah, if he knows the current speculation on any upcoming comics or whatnot, this is gonna just blow up. So buy all these. So okay. Thanks,
Does
Mothy.
he have like a PO box that we can get in touch with Mothman?
Well,
would be
His
awesome.
own holiday.
I mean, maybe we can contact the museum that's in Point Pleasant. Maybe they might know, or maybe they've got like a suggestion box for Mothman. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, suggestion box. There's like gum in there. Actually, since it's West Virginia, it's probably like used dip or something.
Hey,
I don't know.
Somebody put a pepperoni roll in there just in case it gets hungry. Yeah.
There's like a shrine somewhere with Mountain Dew
to
Mothman.
Yeah, totally.
Well, when we find it, we have some questions to ask. So Willow, get on it.
Well, and, going back to your podcast, like what got you interested in doing your storytelling?
Well, I've always done all of those things separately. So my writing has been separate and usually never shared. My voiceover has been for clients or for projects that may or may not be public. And then editing is something that I'm still learning. So this has been my first experiment or foray into audio editing, which is also really fun and enjoyable. But I'm sure for actual audio engineers listening, they might have some notes for me. But it's been great. I'm still learning that. And so this was an opportunity to put all of those things together and to tell the kind of story that I wanted to tell. And it makes me really happy what you said at the very beginning, Willow, when you were like, it's not like other podcasts that I've been listening to, because I noticed that too. I wouldn't call my podcast, well, I guess it's kind of a horror podcast. It's horror light. It's in the genre, but if you don't listen to horror podcasts, it's still very accessible. You're not going to be freaked out. And I've asked my friends what level of scary it is, and my friends who are sensitive said it's the right level of scary. So I take that note to heart because I'm very sensitive and I care about how I categorize myself. So with that said, in the horror genre, in terms of audio dramas and also sci-fi sometimes, there aren't as many women. There are some really big audio dramas that do have women narrators that are amazing, that I really enjoy and admire. If you want, I can pull up a list of other things I've been listening to before the podcast, before our recording ends. But I was like, there aren't a lot of women-centered stories. It's still very, and I think the same is true in the audio world in general. There are some really phenomenal women, and there should be more. So I wasn't hearing the stories that I really wanted to hear. And that's how Moss Hollow started, by thinking, well, no one's making it, so I should make it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, and for a good reference for anybody, it's part of the Serial Box Network here. It would be a Ryan permissonant level of spooky because Ryan is still very new to horror, so he's very sensitive to like stuff that's really freaky. Like I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I've threatened him once that one of these days I'm going to strap him down to a chair and make him watch Cannibal Holocaust, and he'll never be the same again. But you know, yeah. So yeah, this is a Ryan Permisson PG accessible. I mean, it's as I first told Melinda when I first experienced the podcast, I was night driving and listening to this on the way back from somewhere or whatnot, going home, and so that kind of added to the level of it. But yeah, it's just really cool, really creepy, but just the soundscape of the music and the Foley sound effects and stuff like that just adds so much more to it. So it's like almost listening to an audiobook that has sound effects and stuff, which some of those do. It's like there's a lot of horror podcasts. It's just somebody reading a story, and sometimes they're better actors than others. But Moss Hollow adds a whole different level to it because you get all these sound effects and just kind of, it's great to listen with headphones. Because it just really kind of, it's a very immersive sound effect experience. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Thanks, George. I'm glad you said nighttime because most of my creative simmering happens at night, and I think it's easier to write at night. Even recording it, sometimes I record at midnight, which isn't super healthy, but I think it does add to the feeling of the story. And a lot of the underlying sound effects that sort of bubble up across the entire episode are things like rain or crickets or a crackling fire. And then all of those are sort of interrupted by the more intense action of the scene. So yeah, I think if you're into, ASMR already, or if you like those ambient YouTube videos that help you focus or study or get work done, then Moss Hollow, I think you'll enjoy.
And I know, like, as of lately, this year, I've listened to a couple other audio podcasts before yours, and it seems like now actors are starting to do things like the Joker stuff, Joker and Harley, and then there's like,
Yeah.
I like this. I like the storytelling aspect that you're doing with yours because it you almost want the book to be there with you as you're going along listening to you. But will there ever be a book to go along with this?
That's a great question. I would love to publish something. I don't know what it would look like. I also need to get the transcripts up onto the website. But yeah, I would love to be able to publish something. I think if there's a growing audience and it comes up as a suggestion, then absolutely. I'd love to make something if people are interested.
Well, you got two right here, so there you go. So that's a start. So.
And thank you, Dan, for your comment too about having an audience of writers, because honestly, writers are the best audience to have because we are sort of our own circle and we get it. And yeah, there's nothing like being wrapped up in a really just juicy, detailed, wonderful, engaging story written by a friend or someone who's new to you. I love getting roped into something where I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea this person was so good at this. Or, oh my God, I've never heard of this author. How did I not know about this person? Their writing changed me. So I appreciate that.
And it's good to bounce ideas off of other authors as well, and just to see what may not work for them could work for you, or what may not work for you can work for them. And it's funny, like a lot of times it seems like my show inspires the writers to write more, so which is perfect because it's November and I'm sure a lot of you guys are busy writing your own stuff now, so
Yeah, and there's something about, I mean, I know that cryptids span the globe, but there's something that I think about the Appalachian Mountains that really just draws people's attention and curiosity. And there's something so satisfying about going there, and I can't explain what it is. It's one of those places that just captures my heart, and I think about it all the time. I have friends who live in North Carolina, and I visit them a lot, and I think about those visits even when I'm not there, especially in terms of this writing. So I should also clarify, I'm not Appalachian myself. I am
Mm.
Kentuckian, but I go to Appalachia whenever I have the excuse, and it's just a place that I absolutely love. And so it's no secret that being there inspires stories and things that bubble up. And I know that's true for other people too, because it just is a place that brings out the coolest, most interesting stories. So, of course, Appalachian cryptids, 2 plus 2. I mean, yeah, it's the best recipe for something good.
And I love how you kind of touch on a little bit of the supernatural. Well, yeah, but um, some of the rules of the Appalachian Mountains, what you can and can't do.
Yeah. So,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
George.
Yeah, I was just kind of second that. Like one of the, I think it's like the first episode. There's kind of a mention of. Well, actually, no, it's sorry, second episode after Lacey's been introduced, where Lacey kind of makes mention like, yeah, if you hear things in the woods or you hear your name call, no, you didn't. You just keep on going. You didn't hear anything. And my wife, who is a native West Virginian, having not listened to the podcast, which I've been poking at her to listen to this podcast. Sorry, Melinda. I don't know if she really dig it, but anyway, but she's like, oh yeah, that's totally, yeah, like, if you hear stuff in the woods, you hear your name called, you hear sounds that would maybe draw you, like, no, you didn't, you just keep on going. So it's like, so yeah, so that stuff is, yeah, people, there's folks there that they still believe that stuff that's going true. So yeah.
Yeah, I've loved getting to dig into old folklore, because the superstitions and the supernatural and folklore and a lot of stuff that came out of the Foxfire books, those are so classic, and there's so much to know and learn because it almost varies per person, depending on who you're talking to. And it's just incredible how much knowledge is held by people in the mountains. And the story is sort of inspired by what knowledge is kept in the mountains themselves. Where's that line between um, human human knowledge and the knowledge that's held in the plants and the roots of a place. And that's something that both women have to reckon with. And so one of the devices that's written into the story is that one woman is from there, from Moss Hollow, and the other is not. And so all of those concepts are introduced through the woman who's local. And yeah, of course, I personally don't believe in it, but because it's such a good, um, it's so spooky, it just spikes your curiosity. You have to learn more. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just something about it where you sit there alone at night writing and you think, what if? And that's where episode 2 came from. And George, by the way, is like, your memory is insane to me. Like, I can't imagine, how do you keep track of episodes? I can't keep track of my own episodes. What are you doing?
I'm just kind of memory for stupid stuff like that. I mean, back in the days, like we would watch something on DVD and we'd have to like only watch part of the movie. I would remember the time code of where we were in the movie. Yeah, and sometimes we wouldn't come back to it for a couple of days. So it's
That's
nothing.
nuts.
It's nothing useful. Trust me, I've tried, but it works great for fun stuff. So I don't know, but yeah. So if I'm into it, man, I'm yeah, you know me, I'm into it. So
Well, and for your show, the fun stuff is the important stuff. So yeah.
it works. It works out great for my brand. Yeah. But kind of the going into the show again. One thing I love too, because I talked to Willow about this. The voice acting on your part is great because the characters are very distinct. Because you introduce Anna first, and so Anna sounds similar to you, and so like, okay, yeah, this is a good performance. And then when we get to Lacey in episode 2, I'm sitting there listening like, did she hire somebody else for this? I thought she was doing this by herself. And then I was kind of listening. I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like. So but finally, I had to listen to the episode twice because I was so distracted with listening to Lacey. And then when we talked, I'm like, I couldn't believe that was you. And then finally, so yeah, it's credit to you and your performance on that because I know you and I didn't recognize your voice when you did Lacey. So yeah, well done.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so if you haven't listened to the show, each episode bounces between perspectives. So the first episode is from Anna's perspective through her voice, and then the next flips to Lacey's perspective. And so that's been really fun to write too. I know that's like a trend in current publishing where you head hop, but for voice acting and performing it, it's a lot of fun, and that's why I wanted to write it that way, because you get a lot more detail and a lot more nuance to the story. It's not just from one perspective.
Yeah. And I love how you're not dumbing it down for the listener either, and it's just like you're throwing us right into the action, and you're not explaining who the monster is right at it's you're letting our imagination run with this, and I love it.
Yay, that's really good to hear.
There's fun bits of folklore in there too, because of course there's a lot of like, Wiccan, usage of herbs and natural things as defense against the darkness. Like I had no idea that onions were a defense against dark things and demons and whatnot. No, I mean, there's a lot of things. Like I know salt is great against witches. Iron is good against ghosts and stuff like that. It's just certain things but I had no idea about the power of onions. So I have a whole new respect for onions now.
Thanks. Yeah, there are points in the story where they need to work with different plants in order to move forward with the story and achieve what they need to be able to do in order to rescue this girl. And I was really excited to write in more humble plants, things that you would find in your kitchen. And a lot of the witchy sort of spiritual stuff actually overlaps with old, what's the word? Like stuff that your grandma would know how to do. Not old wives stuff. Yeah, it's just like stuff, old-fashioned kitchen recipes from like the Depression. So there's a part in the story where the onions are used. Yeah, George, you know what I'm talking about. It'll come to me in a second. Maybe the comments will tell us. But the onion can actually be used as a poultice to help with breathing or lung infections. It also really helps. You can take the peels off and put it on a first-degree burn, and it will take the sting out of a burn. And so there were things that I was learning about the onion that I didn't even know. And then looking up the sort of more pagan aspects of onion meanings. Onions can ward off evil spirits. It can offer you protection. I do have to be careful though in my writing, because at a certain point you could sort of say anything about any plant, like all the plants offer protection or whatever. So digging into sources and getting really interesting sort of witchcraft perspectives on things, or historical pagan opinions on certain plants, those have been really helpful to infuse into that writing. So every plant has a meaning, but it also has a physical healing purpose. And of course it should be said, I'm going to sound so dumb saying this, but nothing in the podcast is medical advice. Nothing here is real. You should go to the doctor. Don't use onions to cure your pneumonia, please. But
I love Dan's comment here. Oh, great. My chili is a defense against all supernatural threats.
It's true. Yeah, magical chili.
Yeah, and Dave Mattingly earlier comments also onions are also a great defense against the social life.
They repel. They repel people you don't want to, right?
It works either way. Or if you ever work at a Subway restaurant, you will smell like bread and onions every time you get off a shift. I know this because I did one in high school. So there you go.
I think it's a European thing where, like all of Europe, where we just love our garlic and onions and potatoes. So it's
So
the
you'll
better
never be
we are,
haunted.
the better looking we are, I guess.
Yeah, we don't have to worry
Yeah,
about
what you
vampires.
yeah, no
Well,
vampires, no hauntings, and the worse you smell, the better you look. It's a win-win-win all around.
see, perfect. Dave Mattingly, follow back in the cereal box for more recipes.
Yes,
That's it. We don't
delicious.
talk. Yes, we don't talk about just cereal around here, folks. Oh, hang on, sorry. Sorry. Oh gosh.
Dave, I love you guys. A potato offers protection if you throw it hard enough. That's why
There
you
was
don't piss off
actually
your grandma when she's cooking.
yes, so that's why grandmas are no nonsense. Like, it's my dream to someday become like the most badass grandma and just have all of the kitchen stuff is on lock. I'm an expert quilter by that point, and I will have like maybe like a side exorcist business. I don't know yet. I'm thinking about it.
I mean, when I first met you and I got a resume and you had fencing experience on your resume, I'm like, okay, this is the first resume I've got with fencing experience, so I'm hiring her. So I told Joe, who was my boss, like, so I don't care what her skill is. I said, so she knows how to fence. I said, that's it. She's hired. So I was
Hey,
like,
thanks.
so there's like, yeah, just you have fencing experience, so there you are.
I didn't put that my certification lapsed in 2014, but you
It
know,
doesn't matter.
broadsword is like
Yeah.
riding a bike, you know.
Yeah, it's
You
like
still fence, which is awesome.
Thanks.
how often have they updated fencing techniques in 100 years? I mean, come on.
Well, nowadays the new very important but very sexy thing is intimacy direction. So often theaters will ask for the stage, the combat choreographer, the fight choreographer to also do intimacy direction, which is not their job. That needs to be a separate person unless that person is, certified and can really offer that. But
Mhm.
intimacy direction is really important because, if you're doing as an actor, if you're doing something live, whether you're on a set or rehearsing a show, can be really helpful because playwrights write spicy things and you need to have boundaries and consent and understanding and work out exactly what's going to happen so everyone is mentally safe. And yeah, so that is the new, just as a side note, that's the new important sort of trend and progression in acting, which is nice.
Wow.
That is not on my resume. I only have swords. I only have outdated swords. Don't hire me for intimacy direction. I don't know what I'm doing.
And then the next step above will be like whatever the fancy way they'll call nudity on stage because everything's going to be equus.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever's doing Equus next, let me know. I gotta audition.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so funny because I remember that completely getting off topic. That was like a big thing with it was like in like the 60s and 70s when you had old Calcutta and Hair and stuff like that where there was nudity in those and that was the big thing to go to. And then now it's like, oh hey, Harry Potter's doing Equus. Let's go see Harry Potter naked.
I'm so excited for him. You know how child actors, I guess, have to break out and have some project that they do that says, I'm an adult now. Please stop
Mhm.
casting me as these like weird little boy roles or whatever. I'm really happy that that was his. Daniel Radcliffe. He did a good job.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love seeing him in other things that totally puts him away from the whole Harry Potter stuff. Him playing
Yes.
Weird Al though is like he does that so well, and it's just I'm I love that. Like I love that movie to the point where it's like it's making fun of all of pop culture and music and everything, but at the same time, Daniel Radcliffe, you can't tell him apart from Weird Al when he first started. That is like insane how much he looks like him.
That's great casting.
And being a hardcore Weird Al fan, I mean, when that movie hit, I was waiting for that to hit Roku, because when the first teaser trailer came out, I was like, okay, this is going to be magnificent for Weird Al fans and wildly misunderstood for the general public. And then I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is even better. It's like, it's a biopic, but everything is false.
Mhm.
The only thing accurate in this movie is the fact that his name is Weird Al Yankovic, that he knew Dr. Demento on a personal level, and that he wrote those songs. That's about it.
Yep.
Don't you think it's weird? Like, he's still alive. Weird Al is like watching a movie about himself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's watching Daniel Radcliffe be him. I don't know. Shouldn't there be like a thing where you need to die first before they make a movie about you? Maybe not. It doesn't matter.
I mean, considering Weird Al did the UHF, this isn't a stretch for him at all.
And it's funnier for him to do a biopic where he dies and he's still alive. So there you go.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet, so it's on my list now.
Oh, it's it's great. Yeah, it's on the Roku channel for free. So if you got like a Roku device or whatnot for your streaming purposes, then it's right on there and you watch it for free. But yeah, it's loved it. Yeah, and actually, I got to had the opportunity to get to meet Al at a show one time, because it was the first time I ever got to see him live. I was over at the Iroquois Amphitheater. He's played there a few times when he comes to Louisville, and that's a great place to see a show. Free plug there for you, Iroquois. But after the show, the first time, I don't know if he did the second time we just saw him, but the first time, he was like hanging outside his tour bus and had a line of people, and so got to chat with him for just a couple of minutes and tell him how much I appreciated his music and have since I was a kid and all that stuff. But he was just very warm and lovely guy. But it was just, I mean, the guy did like a 2-hour plus show where he had more costume changes than a Broadway production. And he still sat on his bus for probably like another hour and change meeting fans. So,
wow.
Yeah.
He seems like a really awesome guy.
See, I love Dave's thing. I'm still blown away by the pool party scene, and I love that scene. But I'm also kind of like there's a woman portraying Elvira in that scene, and they could have gone a little bit further with the costume and looked on Amazon for a better one with the dagger.
Well, that was the thing. Everybody in that scene is kind of like literally like the Wish version impersonating whatever celebrity of that time. And it's fun too because, like, if you're my age, it's like, oh yeah, you could kind of pretty much pick out everybody who's everybody. But if you're like 20 years younger than me, if you're in your 20s or even early 30s, you're going like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Because like Jack Black's even playing like Wolfman Jack, and I mean, it's like no one under the age.
He did a good job. Like of anybody else doing like the knockoff version, Jack Black did the Wolfman like dead on.
It's like unless you were like grew up in the 80s or even like the early 90s, like no one knows who Wolfman Jack is nowadays. Like that's hilarious. I love it.
I love Wolfman Jack's legacy though.
Yeah, exactly.
Just showing up randomly, making cameos in movies. Sorry, Willow, what were you gonna say?
No, pretty much what you just said. Like the fact that I don't even have to ask you what makes you a nerd, because I love this. Just being able to geek out. What other stuff were you interested in that inspired your podcast?
Well, in addition to going to the mountains, I do love witchy stuff. and I love ghost stories, and so it all kind of came together. And we were talking earlier about um, where in the horror genre this really lives. And while I'm sensitive, I can handle any horror that has a compelling story. Because there have been some things, movies especially, that have just really scared the shit out of me. But I loved that I kind of pushed myself to watch it because the story was so compelling and the character development was so good. I think when you can get behind a character, doesn't matter what genre it is, you can watch anything. And I know like uh oh, what's his name? Oh, he's so famous. Jordan Peele, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jordan Peele's movies I absolutely love. And I think people who are really into horror, who have to have a lot to be scared, they're not as much of a fan of his. And I think it's because Jordan Peele's movies are accessible, but most importantly, they have characters that I really relate to. So I can kind of understand why horror fans are like um, maybe divided on their opinions on him, but I love him because of his characters. It's not really the genre, it's not really stylistic at all. It's that he writes and directs really, really good characters who are cast perfectly. I loved Nope. And it wasn't really because of the stuff, it was because of the protagonist. I
Yeah.
loved him. Actually, now that I think about it, I might have channeled some of that into Moss Hollow because there is a horse that makes an appearance in the story. Shout out to Jordan Peele, who will never know I exist, but hey.
Yeah, I was just saying, when it comes to Peel stuff, as a horror fan, what I really appreciate is the social commentary that he puts into his horror. Because being an old school George Romero fan, that's what I loved about Romero. Was like he loved social commentary in his stuff, even though a lot of times it was a subconscious thing. He basically people would kind of point it out after the fact. It was like, oh yeah, I guess I did that, but it wasn't something he meant to do. Whereas Peele's is a little more intentional, but still, yeah, very effective. So I like a good, I do enjoy a good story, and I'm kind of that category of it kind of takes jump scares still get me, but it takes a lot to really kind of get under my skin for a movie because I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, but for me, my favorite Peel movie is Us. That's one I
Mm,
love. Yeah.
nice. I might actually this fall go back and watch some of his stuff. For me, the stuff that really scares me is the ordinary stuff. It's not the gory bloodbath stuff. It's like real fears that regular people have that just become so exaggerated that um oh man. So okay, recently I watched Let the Right One In, and I feel like that's a good example because the scary parts of that movie are actually so ordinary and so everyday that you almost don't expect it. But then that movie for me had images and um, occurrences in just visually that stuck with me for days. Like they would replay in my head and I think about it. And the kind of horror that really gets me is the stuff that you feel like you might see out of the corner of your eye. And so yeah, the ordinary regular stuff, like I'm not a mom, but any story that centers around a mom kind of gets me because as soon as a child is in danger, like I'm in the story. So um yeah, I think for Moss Hollow, the characters' fears directly influence everything that's happening around them in terms of the action and the plot. That something could go well for them, but if they're too afraid or if they're letting their fears control them, then everything spirals out of control. And so, how do they get control back? Or what are their coping mechanisms that make them feel like they still have control? And so, early on in the story, I started creating walls where they could not go back to the comfortable place where they were before, that they had to move forward even though they didn't want to. And I like asking myself, like, okay, well, what would I do in that situation? And then I kind of write it in. And yeah, again, it's asking what if. Or how can this be the weirdest it can possibly be? How can this be the scariest it can possibly be for me? And that's how some points in the story developed, like they can access the roots in the ground through their feelings, and also there's like a bodily sensation that happens where they start to feel the roots, without giving spoilers away. But that's the kind of horror that I like. Like, what would happen if? And then it's weird and fantastical, but it's just real enough that I can easily write the rest, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah, and another conflict I like with the characters too is that they're basically two different, two sides of the same coin almost, and to the point, and they, as the listener, that for them to be successful, what they got to do, they have to learn to work together, and there's still that conflict. Even I guess kind of we're almost in the midway point for the show. They're still learning to try to work together and learning that fact that we probably already know that if you guys just stop fighting with each other. So yeah, and for anybody who hasn't caught up yet or not, we have like Melinda said at the top of the show, we've got a break. So you're taking a week off, which okay, I guess you could take a week off, but we're
but
not.
I love how you also invite the audience in to participate with creating this whole thing, because you ask them, you're getting into the Halloween spirit, the Halloween thing, and you want to know what monsters they like, and what you think you should add to the story to make it flow better. And that I love that idea of making your audience feel important to the show.
Yeah, I have some, like as George said earlier, there are some trusted people that I really lean on to give me good feedback. Even when it's stuff that doesn't directly influence the story, but I know that I'm on the right track because of what it inspires them to say to me. So, for example, I have a friend who is really into Eastern Kentucky history, and he's super smart. By his desk at work, he has a picture. It's actually like a woodcut print of a woman named Aunt Molly Jackson. And Aunt Molly Jackson, if you know anything about labor history, you've come across her name. So she was an Eastern Kentucky woman she was also a folk singer, but she also helped organize coal mining unions out there. And she's just like this super fiery, incredible historical figure that's sort of been, dismissed. So not very many people know about her. But if you Google Aunt Molly Jackson, you'll come across some really cool stuff. And her sister rather, was also a singer. So they were like a power duo. And her husband, I believe, was a miner. So he sends me this video of him listening to Moss Hollow on his computer, and then pans up next to his desk just with a vision of Aunt Molly Jackson. And I was like, yes, oh my God, yes, she's like the perfect person to respond to. Because there is like a little bit of labor history in this podcast, although I don't delve very far into it. But miners and railroad workers make an appearance. It's such an important part of that region of Appalachia that it has to be there. And so him just showing me Aunt Molly Jackson was like, yes, this is in the spirit of Aunt Molly Jackson. I'm so happy that he sent me that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love that. So, So for folks who, of course, just getting in here, we are talking with Melinda Beck about Moss Hollow, her podcast that's out now. We're on episode 11, 12?
Yeah, I'm on 11,
Yeah,
but
11,
I
yeah.
guess 10 if you don't count the ghost story episode, which was sort of its own intermission.
Yeah, that was fun. I like the ghost story. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, so but yeah, it's basically an Appalachian based spooky story. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's it's not for like this is this is more for the lighter fare. So if you're not deep into horror stuff, but you like a good spooky tale, this is awesome. Great character development and performances. And then also you get like a whole kind of like soundscape of great music and sound effects and Foley kind of background noise and stuff like that. So tell us about who produces the music and the sound effects for this.
Yeah, so the theme music is made by a really awesome musician named Kendall Winter, and she's based in North Carolina, I believe, and her Instagram account is really cool. So she posts videos of herself playing banjo all the time, and that's actually how I found her. So if you're interested in banjo music, she's really cool. Her handle is at Winter Kendall, Kendl, if you'd like to give her a follow. And I just reached out to her and said, "Hey, I'm producing this podcast, and would you be interested in doing the intro and outro for it? I really love your music." And she was like, "Yeah." So she actually has some music coming out in the spring, and you can pre-order it on vinyl, which is really cool. I'm happy that she has a vinyl album coming out, and that's called Banjo Mantras. So again, if you're a folk person, if you're really into banjo, she's really remarkable. So please give her a follow. You can visit her website. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's just kendallwinter.net, or maybe it's Winter Kendall. Just Google it. You'll find it because she's great. Yeah, so you can pre-order there, find out more about her stuff. And then my other friend, Melody, is also based in North Carolina, and she just went out into her backyard and recorded a ton of stuff for me. So anything that you hear that's nature-based, like the katydids, the birds, the creek water, there's a few really, really good mountain sounds that I keep coming back to. Those are all originally recorded by her. And then anything else that I don't have or can't find, I go to freesound.org. So I found some actually really talented musicians on there. And often it's people that are like producers or just sound hobbyists, and they'll play around, they'll noodle with their guitar and, record some weird, like reverby cool shit, and then I use it. So there are some sounds that I also play around with. So whenever I can't find a sound that I really, really want, I'll mess around with it. So the plant spirits are, I actually searched for whale song, and then I just played around with the pitch and the reverb and sort of messed with it in my software. And so that's what the plant spirits are. Nothing
Cool.
weird or original. It's just whale song.
That's cool.
Well, without spoiling anything for a future listener or for anybody who's still currently listening, when eventually the reveal for whatever spirit, whatever thing we're dealing with here, would this be familiar? Basically, a familiar entity to somebody who's big into like Appalachian folklore, or are you still kind of like? Are you still kind of playing with the idea of what it is yet? Like, do you know what the basic our big bad is basically?
Yes, I know what the big bad is. And it's so hard for me to not spoil it. I have to wait until Moss Hollow is done, and then maybe I could do a follow-up interview. But it's not a classic cryptid that you would know. But it will be familiar to you.
Okay.
So that's all I can
like
say.
obscure.
Dave Mattingly says, if you play a whale song backwards, you summon devilfish.
Yes, Dave, you should like write the Moss Hollow sequel, Ocean Edition.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, I love Dave. We've got a lot of great comments here tonight so yeah, definitely got to thank Dave Mattingly, Carl Witzman in here, Dan Hollefeld, Donna Carley, Eli Cash. Yeah, and Donna and Eli, I promise you guys, if I do pin Ryan down to the chair to make him watch Cannibal Holocaust, I'll let you guys know. I'll have the camera, in front of him, and we'll kind of tape his eyelids back, like in Clockwork Orange and all that kind of stuff. And there's probably gonna be a lot of crying, I would imagine, on his part. But if it gets a little uncomfortable, I may cut the feed here. I may take it easy on him. We'll see how he does in like the first 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll go from there.
George, I like that you're closing out on just casual threats. Look out.
Well, I mean, anybody. I mean, my own wife kind of, I didn't make her go through a cannibal movie, but it's like I helped kind of break spooky stuff down for her. So basically now she's a trained professional when it comes to watching horror movies and stuff like that. But it's like when we first got together, Walking Dead freaked her out and gave her bad dreams. So like we had to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and, work her into it. So I'm working Ryan into it a little bit, but sooner or later, we're going to have to get to advanced class.
Michelle is so lucky because my boyfriend once said, "Have you watched The Descent?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" And he said, "It's not that scary." And then I stayed awake for like a month.
I can't watch horror
That's
movies with
mean.
my husband. It was after The Grudge that he swore off watching horror movies with me.
I don't blame him. It's scary.
Yeah, Dave Mattingly said George's threats are normally formal except for casual threat Fridays. Well, that's why I wear Hawaiian shirts and threaten people. So there you go.
Yeah, that's for next episode.
Exactly. Well, I just, I'm at least sensitive to the fact of, because I myself, used to be, scared of stuff because my sister's a couple years younger than I am. And so like when Poltergeist was huge, she would watch that over and over and over again because like Carol Ann was like her age in the original movie. Whereas me, I'm like, I'm freaked out by like the fact the pork chop's moving on its own. And so I couldn't watch that movie for a while. And so, but like somewhere around 11 or 12, like, the fear factor went away and then it was just full tilt boogie from there. So I'd go to the video store all the time and rent I think it really rented like 4 movies. You get them for like $5 or something. And so I grabbed the craziest horror stuff I could find and made me the well-adjusted person I am today.
You had to cultivate it.
Yes, very much.
It worked out.
It did, yeah.
Do I dare ask what your guys' first movie was that you guys can remember?
Like first horror movie or first movie period?
Well, first movie period, but I horror movie works too.
For me, yes. My very first movie period was Star Wars. I was just barely 2 years old. And it was during the 1978 re-release, and we were watching at the drive-in. It's literally my earliest memory.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember my first movie. I do remember the first scary movie that really affected me, and that was Sixth Sense.
Oh.
I'm kind of giving away my age, but I was, I think, in elementary school when that movie came out. And no, was I? I was in middle school. No, I'm more of a baby than I'm admitting. So I was in middle school, and a friend of mine was like, "I rented this movie. My parents don't know about it, and you're gonna come over. We're gonna watch it." And we were so nervous. Do you guys remember bubble tape in like those circles? I wonder if they still sell it, but we were so nervous that we just like went through all the tape, and we both had like 2 giant wads of bubble tape. And by the time Haley Joel Osment goes, "I see that people," we were like, so that's etched in my head. What about you, Willow?
Thinking of how many kids probably have had better childhoods than me, but no, it was Fatal Attraction. My mom took me to see Fatal Attraction, and a lot of people are like, why did your mom take you to see that? It's like, if you guys knew the situation with me and my mom, you'd understand.
and how old were you?
I was 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was pretty young, and I remember basically the whole film. And like I've only seen it like a handful of times since. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of Glenn Close. I love her movies. But yeah, I'm just like I'm trying to figure out, why did my mom take me to see such a horrible movie?
Oh,
Moms back then were a different breed.
Well,
But yeah,
my first R-rated film, again going to the driving, because when I was a kid, that was our easiest way to venue for movies was we had a drive-in that was like less than 10 minutes away, so that's what we did most of the time. I was a huge Conan the Barbarian fan as for like the comics and growing up on the Robert E. Howard stuff, and so when the Schwarzenegger movie came out, I'm like, take me to that now. And so we went, and so the double feature was Conan the Barbarian in 48 hours. Two movies that are chock full of violence, gore, and nudity. And so, but that was my first R-rated double feature when I was a mere 8 years old, and my parents thought that was okay. They thought it was cool. I mean, I'm sitting in the back of the car like, this is great.
But I still find it funny because like I remember watching that movie, and then I remember my mom and my aunt introducing us to the classic monster movies, and for some reason I got really creeped out by The Mummy, and just the way Boris Karloff walks in that. Just I don't know what it was that just like every time I'd see that movie I would scream.
Man, Egyptian horror is scary because it's like 5,000-year-old horror, which is worse.
Yeah, Boris is the master. We got some good comments here for Dave Mangley. Remembers his first scary movie was Them. Yeah, giant ants. Yeah, that'd be weird. Let's see. Don Hollifeld says The Day the Earth Stood Still was his first non-Disney movie he can remember back. Yeah. And
wow.
I've always... the interesting thing about the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still that's got Keanu Reeves in, a lot of fans will say that that's like the Silver Surfer movie we've always wanted but we're never going to get. Was basically Keanu Reeves' Day the Earth Stood Still, because it's like just paint him silver, put him on a board. He's the Silver Surfer in that movie. It's just the way. There you go. But yeah, so that's a classic. Don Duelis's first movie they saw in the theater was Ghostbusters. Oh, love the classic.
That's a great first movie.
Carl Witzman says we're making him feel old.
Oh
no. You're welcome. Dave Mangley says his son was 5 or 6 when he went to see Fellowship of the Ring for the first time, and the jump scare of Bilbo trying to grab the ring totally freaked him out.
Who did though? Who wasn't freaked out? Because I still think about that.
Yeah.
You know, when Ian Holmes passed away, God, he was so good. All of the adorable images of him as Bilbo were like the nice ones, and I was like, no, his legacy is that moment.
There's that one, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, Willow. Another thing Melinda and I bonded on is hardcore Lord of the Rings fans. So. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there you go. Let's see here. Dave Manley says The Mummy was the first real zombie movie.
Yeah.
Yes, Dave.
Technically, the Mummy's not a zombie. Mummies are a different classification of undead because they're aware of what they're doing. They're cognizant. Where zombies are just literally they're like sharks on land. They're just eating machines. Mummies are aware of what they're doing. Mummies can also be sorcerers and stuff like that. So, yeah, they're a little different.
Somebody needs to make a crossover, like a mummy zombie crossover where zombies can also be cursed. Because I feel like with mummies, the curse is like a big deal. That's a big part of the mumminess, you know. But if zombies were cursed, they'd be even scarier.
Good point.
Yeah,
you know, they always kind of go like werewolf curses too. Werewolves. They kind of sometimes movies translate it where it's more of kind of like a viral sort of thing like that. But like the old school Lon Chaney one, he was cursed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think
Uh,
about that.
Carl Witzman says, "Grew up on the Hammer films." Yes, Hammer horror films are great. Donna agrees. So yeah, that's some classic gothic horror there. Where almost every Dracula Van Helsing movie, you would get Christopher Lee as Dracula and Peter Cushing as Van Helsing, and that was just perfect.
I love how Christopher Lee wasn't like he wants everybody to remember him as anything but Dracula.
As far as I knew, towards the end of his life, he was proud of his whole, filmography. I mean, because that guy did, gosh, I think close to 2,000 films in his career. Never once playing a good guy, as far as I know. He always played villains, but in real life, was a perfect gentleman.
Mhm.
Loved his fans. Didn't matter if you came to him loving Dracula or Sauron or Man with a Golden Gun. Doesn't matter.
He always
Yeah.
impressed me because he was so grounded in everything he did. He never treated it as this extra fantastical thing. And it made me realize he was actually one of the first people that helped me sort of view the 20th century as a scope that wasn't really that far away. Um, because he knew Tolkien and he didn't he fight in World War One? Am
Yes.
I Yeah, so he was a
Yes.
soldier in World War One. That is so mind-blowing. I can't believe that. So that really wasn't very long ago at all, but it feels so distant. Anyway,
Yeah.
Christopher Lee,
Yeah. And,
Peter,
and you're right. And you're right, Melinda. Christopher Lee was the only cast member of the entire Lord of the Rings Hobbit films that personally knew Tolkien.
they were so lucky to have him. Oh my god, can you imagine? Man,
Every now and then you'll see, like, in whatever geek group you belong to on social media. Every now and then you'll see somebody post like Christopher Lee meme of like his like factoids of like the roles, like all the other stuff he did in his life, and it's like staggering.
Yeah, I love this. I need to find Christopher Lee's heavy metal records.
Yes.
that fact still boggles my mind. Like the fact that he released that when he was like in his 80s or 90s, right?
And yeah, 80s,
wow.
yes. And it's not just heavy metal records, it's a trilogy of heavy metal records about Charlemagne. So it's a trilogy about. It's not. He's not really like singing. He's kind of more like talk singing and whatever else. But the band behind him is definitely a metal band. It's like it's got Judas Priest backing him up, or something like that. But yeah, they're pretty cool.
I have to
They're
listen to that. Oh my god.
they're great for playing D&D. Let's put it that way. You put those on in the background when you got a campaign going. Yeah, it's better than a Man of War playlist.
As long as you roll well, right? Because I think that would be heartbreaking to be, killed off or something to Christopher Lee. But just sing extra bad.
I mean,
I think we're giving Miranda more ideas for her next show.
Oh, and let's see here. We're getting props here. So I dropped a Scaramanga list here. So yeah, on this, yeah, you're welcome, Dave. And oh yeah, Carl says that Christopher Lee was also a spy in was it World War One or World War Two? But yeah, he was a spy as well for Great Britain.
Wow.
So yeah,
Actors are good spies. Hey, if anybody has spy work that they need to hire me for, let me know.
yeah,
I'm trying
but
to up
that's
my
also like
spy resume.
yeah, that's also like dangerous, and you might get killed over that. So I don't know if
It's
I
fine.
mean,
I'll be in a wig. They won't know it's me. I'll be okay.
fair enough.
It's funny that you say that. My husband has been rewatching Alias, and I'm
Nice.
having I've watched so many shows similar to that that for some reason I had to ask him the other day. I'm just like, was it Alias that was doing this, or was that Nikita?
You're right. Nikita well, yeah, Le Femme Nikita definitely was the groundwork. I mean, because of course, like, you had the French film, then you had a couple of different American remakes, and you had the USA Network series. So yeah, Alias kind of brought back the femme fatale, super spy kind of stuff like that. And of course, it put J.J. Abrams and Jennifer Garner on the map. So
Yeah.
Man, I
it was a
need to
fun show.
rewatch that.
That was a fun show.
Yeah.
Dave Manley says he rewatched Alias last year, still loves it. So I haven't watched that show since it was on. I mean, I was there. I think I got on like after like the second season or something. I didn't get on from the beginning, but I was definitely there till the end. But yeah, it was a cool show.
We somehow blanked out that Bradley Cooper was an awesome actor way before he did the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks on that show, but yeah, of course. What's his face from Victor Garber. Victor Garber was on that show too. Yeah, he was. I mean, yeah, he's awesome because he was kind of a fun villainous kind of character at times. And then you also kind of liked him, so yeah.
Man, I really like watching him.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, Dave. Yes, his Alias was imagined after J.J. Abrams saw Run Lola Run with Frankie Patenka. Oh. Interesting. I did not know that. So, yeah, wow. Run Lola Run's are a great neo-noir kind of movie there. So, yeah, that's a movie that will wear you out when it's done because it's like, how did she, like, the cardio that Franca had in that movie is just I mean, I know there was editing and stopping involved, but like it looks like she's running literally through the whole movie. We have gotten way off track too.
Whatever. That's what I like about doing my shows is I don't mind where Johnny keeps wanting me to stay on topic, but I'm just like I just want to geek out.
That's the great thing about the whole back of the Cereal Box Network here is that for us to stay focused on one topic ain't gonna happen.
You're getting a bunch of people with ADD and the neurodivergent people together and over the internet. It'll be like this.
There's a commonality I see in social circles. Like when you get teachers together, very quickly they all start talking. It doesn't matter if they don't teach the same school. Teachers, they start talking education and kids and stories and whatnot. You get nurses together. Suddenly we're telling medical horror stories and, whatever else. Or, I had this guy with this weird lump on his neck sort of thing. You get geeks together and suddenly if you're not a geek, if you're not on the same level as the rest of the geeks, you can't hang on to this ride.
With us, it becomes show and tell, talking about what favorite cereals, what movies, and whatnot.
Yeah, but also good news because everybody's watch lists just pile high, just pile it onto the mountain, Yeah. I just from doing this episode, my watch list is full again. So thanks.
No problem. I know. I've been rewatching Ghost Whisperer with.
Jeff Hewitt.
Yeah, and it's funny how it falls along the same lines of other shows that came out around the same time, and it's like this show could totally be in the same world as the Gilmore Girls.
It basically, for me, Ghost Whisperer felt like Touched by an Angel with like a lower neckline.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're very similar shows, with basically kind of their approach to things and the formula. Basically, someone's approach to the problem, you deal with it in a spiritual way, and blah, blah, blah. So, yes, there was some mythology in there, but for the most part, they kind of dealt with things in very similar ways.
Yep.
Wow. That's a great analogy. For a hot minute, you know how people get rickrolled? My rickroll with a couple of my friends is the Touched by an Angel theme song. So I'll link to something, but it's actually the Touched by an Angel theme song. I got to bring that back. Thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome. Funny you should say that. I forget what it was. Michelle ordered something, and we got like a magnet, like a little fridge magnet. It's a QR code, right? If you scan the QR code, you get rickrolled. But I will hand it to him. It is the crispest, most high definition version of "Never Gonna Give You Up" video I've ever seen in my life. It looks gorgeous. It looks like Rick Astley did that yesterday.
Wow.
But yeah, it's like so that's on our fridge. You can our fridge rickrolls you. So
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, we didn't know
That's a
that
great
happened.
prank.
And yeah, we didn't know that was until until she scanned it. It's like, oh my god, look at this. So
Yeah. Does anybody know like how Rick Astley feels about all this? Like, is he
loves it.
excited or does he hate it?
He loves it because
Yay.
his song is always on people's mind. You know who he is. Also, he hasn't aged in like 30 years either, so he still looks the same. Yeah, I mean, what was it? There was some TikTok I saw, like it was like a St. Patty's Day or something. He was in a pub and he was like, you know, tapping different, taps or whatever else. And every time he tapped one, it was like a different song around the time period of his. And he's like, nah, nah, nah. And then he finally gets to one, and it's never going to give you up. And he's like, he starts dancing, and like he was in the video and stuff like that. So yeah, he loves the attention that his.
That makes
I
me
mean,
so happy.
yeah, I mean, he still performs the song. He will perform it proudly and gladly for you because he loves the fact that, I mean, yeah, he hasn't really, he still releases music from time to time. But it's like, yeah, 30 years later, people are still loving his song. And it's become a pop culture thing. It's a fun prank to put on people that you don't get too terribly mad over. So there you go.
I think as time goes on, Rickrolling people has to become more and more elaborate for anyone to fall for it. I don't know. I think it would be great to do it like a conference, somewhere that's very official and formal, where that no one will ever expect it.
And
yeah,
you get fired
click here to register.
Dave Mattingly says Rickrolling has done more to raise awareness for online caution than all the corporate cybersecurity education in history.
and seeing as Dave works in cybersecurity and programming and stuff like that, he would know. Yes.
Yeah, I believe it.
Oh, hey, one thing I wanted to show you, Melinda, that you would appreciate that I showed Willow earlier, but I did have a bit of show and tell that is appropriate for our show here. But since Michelle is a native West Virginian, this is her great grandmother's wand.
No way!
Yes. Yeah. Basically, it's just a single piece of tree branch, very solid, very sturdy. You have to think positive or good thoughts when you hold it and pick it up, sort of thing like that. But yeah, this was in her mother's possession for a long period of time, and then she gave it to Michelle several years ago, and we've had it in our house ever since. But yeah, this is her, and basically Michelle's a native West Virginian, and her whole family's from there. So yeah, this is her great grandmother's wand.
Wow! Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so cool.
And all we need now is Keisha to show up to show us her haunted stick.
Yes.
That's so cool. They're like the yin and the yang of sticks.
Carl's asking, does it have the spirit of a dead boy like Keisha's stick? No, like I said, it's that's why it's her grandmother, her mom, and everybody always says like you have to think nice thoughts and have happy things on your mind when you pick it up, because if you don't, I don't know what happens. But I haven't figured that part out yet. But I'm a good trial and error sort of person, except when it comes to magic, because I've learned from reading many Doctor Strange books, you just don't mess around with magic. So there you go.
Yeah,
See,
one of the themes of
say
Moss
I can't say I have any haunted objects, but no, I'm the problem is like I know I have a couple spirits following me around with I think one of them is definitely my grandfather, who likes to play tricks on me and let me know. He'll let me know when he's around, and I smell his cologne.
Oh, that's cool though.
Wow.
Yeah, and then like weird shit will move off my desk or something, or if I'm drawing or writing or something, and I'll leave my pen and paper somewhere, the pen will just appear out of it like nowhere, like a couple days later.
That's funny.
That's awesome. Say hi to your grandpa for us.
Oh, Aubrey's joining us here. One of our other fellow serial boxers is. Hello, alls. It's so cool about the wand. Good to see
Hello,
you,
Aubrey.
Aubrey.
She felt this. She felt the spirit around the wand, so she had to come in and say hi.
Exactly, yeah. And Dave Vance is finally a wand to be used effectively as a club. Yeah, I don't know how long of a life it would have as a club, but it's definitely a good braining stick. So there you go. A good cleric or druid needs a good braining stick. So smack them on the head with it. So.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm behind on my stick game. I need to find a good stick, y'all. I don't know what to do.
I got plenty out back here. I've got old trees that I love shedding stuff all the time. So yeah, so I've got
What are they
we have.
special?
Oh, I mean, that's up to the tree. I don't know.
That's true. We'll have to ask the plant spirits to offer us
Yeah.
a special stick.
Yeah, that's I can't decide those sort of things like that. It just
One
happens.
will just be randomly placed on your porch.
All right, I'll report back. They better follow through because I'll be really sad if I don't get a stick like you guys.
Well, I mean, I've had random leaves as payment for leaving food out for outdoor cats and whatnot. Because we've got our indoor babies and they don't go outside at all. But then I know I've got neighborhood cats around the area, so I was like, well, I'll leave some food and water out for them as well. And that also attracts raccoons and possums and birds and garden slugs. And various other things. So there are times in the morning, I'll get the mail or whatnot, and there were leaves on the porch that weren't there the previous night. So I assume that's just random payment for the food they ate.
Perfect.
I'm not like I don't really feed the birds here. I did at one point try to leave stuff. But every so often, like I'm guessing the squirrels get peanuts from down the street, and I'll have like the odd peanut show up in my backyard. I'm just like, where the heck did this come from?
Yeah,
that's the sign that you're next.
Yeah. Bring me food. Fill up your birdhouses.
Oh no. We're all at various stages on our Disney princess journey. We'll get there someday.
I'll just say, there's sometimes our front yard looks like friggin' Snow White out here. So it's we go. We just you just lay some food out and suddenly you're everybody's friend. So, but yeah, I had no idea that garden slugs loved cat food. But yeah, so if you want to attract garden slugs, say like away from plants or wherever else, lay cat food. And they don't eat much. It takes them a long time to eat one piece, but yeah, they love that stuff.
Well, I know that we have rabbits living underneath our porch, so every so often I'll be greeted by a little gray thing. A squirrel, a red squirrel, almost joined us on our back porch yesterday coming home. Just ran right in front of us, and then all of a sudden he's like, "What am I doing?" And then ran back. I'm just like, "You're not joining us."
That's so sweet, though.
Dave Manning, are we suggesting that peanuts migrate?
Well, maybe
you didn't know.
Maybe from the squirrels or any of the birds that I have in my area. So,
look, if coconuts can be migratory, so can peanuts. Okay.
Yeah, they're all going south right now.
Well, if a bird can grip it, it's migratory. So there you
go. Man, you guys have magical experiences.
I have no idea how or why. Dan Hollyfield said the best cleric's wand ought to be a ball peen hammer.
Nice.
Yes, only if it's made all entirely of iron or silver. It can't be a mixed metal or a synthetic metal. It's got to be a pure metal for a cleric to wield.
Them's the rules. Yeah, I was just thinking that you guys have magical experiences, but my experiences recently have just been really just kind of, I don't know. I would not know how to categorize this, but shortly before Halloween, I was in a Kroger parking lot and I got into my car and my car was sort of away from everyone else. And I look over and there's a crow just by himself, not with anybody else, a crow eating an egg that had smashed onto the pavement. And of course, this was like Kroger, right? So the parking lot is, filled with cigarette butts and like trash and horrible things. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, is this, was this image brought to me because this is the state of my soul right now? Is this like an inner reflection? Because I was looking around at other people with their carts. No one else saw this. And it was so cool and so grotesque. This crow just eating this egg. I don't know why I'm telling this for the podcast, but maybe this is what I should close on. It was like so cool, but so disgusting at the same time. And I was like, maybe if karma is real and we can reincarnate as anything, maybe I'll come back as a crow and someday I'm going to be that sad, weird, cigarette smoking crow in the parking lot, just sucking a yolk out of a broken shell. It was so weird. And the other birds tried to get it, but it was like, no, I'm the Christopher Lee of this parking lot.
Well, it seems like crows are supposed to be like, they're, they watch out, or sometimes they have spirits of loved ones, and they keep an eye on you, or they can communicate with other crows. So like, strangely enough, like if you're nice to a crow somewhere else, like communication will go around. Like they're very oddly intelligent and intuitive birds, more so than a lot of others. So it may have just been keep an eye on you, or just saying what they appreciate the positive exposure and the podcast.
Aww.
Yeah,
some beautiful crow spirit was like, eat your protein.
There you go.
That was the spiritual message.
Yes, you said you needed to add a little more protein in your diet. You were lacking in energy. So there you go.
Yeah, that's actually a good. If Cryptid Crunch, I think, has like a moral that needs to be passed on, like a mantra at the end of every episode. Maybe we can start that now, where like, cryptids eat weird things. You got to get your protein.
Yeah, maybe don't necessarily eat an egg out of the parking lot, but maybe get some more protein in your diet. So I don't know.
Eat well is the point.
There you are.
So awesome.
That is awesome. You guys are fun to hang out with, and we need to do this more often.
I'd love to come back. This has been so much fun.
Absolutely. And I have a couple more episodes to go through of your show, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you go from here.
Thanks so much, Willow. Yeah.
Your storytelling is fantastic, and I wish you luck, and hopefully that it'll lead to more storytelling. And I want to see a book of your stuff someday.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll let you know when that's in the works. You'll be the first to know.
Excellent.
Yeah, and folks, just to reiterate, we were talking about Melinda's podcast, Moss Hollow, which is everywhere you listen to podcasts, or you can go to mosshollow.com directly to download and listen to episodes from there. So basically we've got you got 10 or 11 episodes, and then you're on, I keep saying we. I'm not involved in any way of the show as just a listener, but it's like, it's my show. I take ownership of this now.
You're an honorary member, so you can say that. You can say we.
Okay, thank you. It's the royal we. It's the royal we. But yeah, so I'm like the only murders in the room, only murders in the building fans. We're like it feels it's our podcast now, so we're invested in this. I want to know what happens to Anna and Lacey. I want them to find the girl. I want to know what this whole thing is that's torturing these people. So, but yeah, so
we should mingle after each episode is released and have a little chat about it.
But new episodes are posted on Tuesdays, except for this week because you're taking a vacation, which fine. Just leave us hanging for a week.
But that means all the episodes coming up will be tighter, energized.
Yeah.
Not that they aren't already, but I want this show to end really well. So the break helps.
Yeah. Of course, you did give us the extra ghost story episode, which is unrelated, but we got an extra bonus spooky ghost story episode. So I was like, okay, I guess since we got a bonus one, we'll let you take a week off. So
Thanks. Yeah, this is slated to end by the end of the year or early January. So if you're new to the show and you're catching up, just know that this is scheduled to end. But there's a podcast newsletter called The End. And if you're looking for other audio dramas that have already been completed, you can search that database too and follow that newsletter. And that way, if you're someone who wants to wait until something is finished to start, now you know when. But until then, please subscribe and leave a rating or a review or tell a friend about it. That's how other people find the show. So thank you so much, and I appreciate that if you choose to listen.
Well, thank you, George, for hooking me up with Melinda, and tell our viewers where we can find you.
You're very welcome. If you guys haven't checked out Fanatic Forum, that's my podcast. I am the Prime Fanatic. I go live Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube. We talk all things geek. I do comic book reviews, new book reviews every week. And then my subject changes from week to week, or I'll have guests on. We'll showcase, something geeky fun that they do, like podcasts or books or, whatever or they did a movie or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I just love showcasing my passions, sharing other people's passions with you guys, the listeners, the viewers. So yeah, the Fanatic Forum is a welcome place for all things geek, and welcome to all people.
And it's really fun.
I try.
I'm a listener too, so it's a great time.
I gotta catch up on the show. I'm a bad friend, but
we're all doing. That's the thing. That when you're friends with other podcasters, we all support each other's podcasts. But do we get a chance to always listen to each other's podcasts?
No.
You know why? Because we're doing our own podcasts, so it happens.
And well, we have a friend from England showing up.
Glenn Fleming.
Glenn Fleming. Oh, sorry, wrong Glenn. But welcome to the show, Glenn. Sadly, we're about to end the show. But
too bad you can't stay.
But hey, you guys can find me all over social media. I'm like the social media socialite. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. I was on Twitter for the longest time, but I hardly use it now. But you can also find me on Instagram. So yeah, you guys have a great night. Thank you very much for joining us here. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Willow. Bye, everyone.
No problem.
Bye, George.